buying high, selling low kind of
Oh yeah.
thing.
That's the only way, you know. I just got these diamond hands, man. I just got these diamond hands. Now, as far as leverage, have you ever like traded with leverage or anything like that?
Um, right. So my principle was never use leverage ever, ever. I've heard horror stories about it. And the first time I decided to go against my gut was when I got some really good alpha from a close friend of mine, and I'm like, this is an obvious trade, and the only time it makes sense to use leverage are in obvious trades, right? Like short
Hmm.
in Doge, and Elon Musk is on SNL talking about it. Like that's obvious. Um, but my principle was
Uh,
never use leverage unless it's obvious. So I was like, okay, this is the most obvious thing that I could do, so let me do it. Same time, everything crashed 30%. And I was like, holy shit, what just happened?
right.
And I was like, there was two sides of me. There was one like, Kim, you should never do this. This was part of your plan to never use leverage or any of this crappy stuff. And then I realized, I just have to be super objective. What happened was a black swan event that doesn't happen every single day, right? You don't expect crypto
Right.
to go down 30%. But that being said, you cannot time the market. So that was an interesting experience. But to answer your question, I wish I never used leverage, but unfortunately, I've used it once in my life and I got totally wrecked. So, yeah.
It's like almost perfect that it happened because it's like just gives you that lesson that hey, don't ever do it again. Because think about it,
Yep.
it's actually worse if you were getting really big head and you like actually traded to the millions and millions and then get wiped in that day. Think about it
Yep.
like that. So there's always different perspectives of like looking at it. Me personally, in this like recent pullback, I already got rugged before the pullback. Okay. I
Ooh.
freaking bought, I don't know if you heard Walt Finance,
Oh
Wex.
my gosh. Yes.
So, okay. So it was like, I was like so happy. So I had bought my first little load because, you can average up on a trade, right? So I end up buying at 33 cents. Freaking buy more at 35, 36, 30. I think maybe 38 was my last purchase. It hit 38 and went down to 20 cents while I went to sleep.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
And then
Oh
I
my
think it
God.
started trading upwards around 24. I'm like, okay, found support, found support. And I was just on that hopium. And then I think it flushed down to 14. Then
Oh
while it
my
was on days from 14 to 10. So I exited at 10. After I sold, it bounced to 15. And now it's trading at 3 cents. So, and
oh
then the
shit.
market pulled back. So my all my liquidity pools, my Solana that's holding up the network, all of that wrecked. So it's just like I felt really betrayed. So I'm right now taking a break in cash, still holding my projects, still staking the network of Solana. But I've honestly felt that wreck. Like we're wrecked together, and I love the
Yep.
memes on Twitter right now. I'm feeling the energy. All it just really has been a big help. So
Yep.
let's see. You don't trade too often, but as far as like, where do you see crypto in 3 years from now?
Um, Honestly, I don't see it being very much different to what we're seeing today, except I don't assume it'll be as parabolic as it has been this past year or so. But institutions coming in and whatnot, it's definitely going to become more of a viable asset class. But I think what is interesting in the next 3 years is that, well, Bitcoin already has this features where it is tied to the macroeconomics of things, right? It moves in tandem with the global markets. And that's expected given that these large holders are institutions that pay attention to these metrics, these macro metrics. What is going to be interesting to see how institutions come into DeFi, which that conversation has already started. So I don't know. I see it. I don't think it's going to be much different other than there's going to be more adoption, more awareness. I think, after we have actual, well, not actual, we did have a crash, but until we witness some like a 50 to 70% drawdown, then it'll shake out some people, and by that time we might be on our next bull run because it's 3 years from now, right? You take a break for a year and a half, and then you go again. But I don't see it being very much different than it is right now, quite frankly, except for adoption. That's the only thing I see changing.
Right. And I think if we can get some real traction on decentralized finance, I think that'd be like the ultimate goal. I mean, imagine this a stock market being on the decentralized exchange and you can be a stakeholder of that said stock exchange and allow
Yep.
all of the option volume, all of the stock volume to be acquired as far as trading fees go. And it would
Yep.
be an ultimate like fest as far as like buying as much of that staking as possible. So we already have huge projects in out there. So can you tell me a few of your favorite projects?
My favorite is probably synthetics. I think they probably have the closest to merging these two worlds. And I think Injective Protocol does something very similar to this, where they allow you to create any asset. But I haven't really looked into it. I was doing some research on it, but I think synthetics is probably the closest one to it. I know that well, FTX and all these exchanges aren't really DeFi, but because FTX, they're very much focused on bridging the two worlds. I can totally see SBF making a DeFi version of this on Solana. That's super realistic. But what's interesting is I am quite curious to see how this all plays out, because a lot of these infrastructure people like the CME and like, NASDAQ and whatnot, their bread and butter is literally fees. These big banks and stuff that are offering crypto custody and trading services, they're not necessarily offering it because they believe in it. They're offering it because they're trying to collect fees. And if you move to DeFi, then they're not collecting that fee anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two routes. They can either just come from like an investment standpoint and invest into these DeFi projects, or they can team up with persons within DeFi to build their own. And that would be insane because yeah, if a big bank comes into the DeFi space and say, hey, we're gonna make a decentralized exchange for the equities market, that's next level. But then a block would potentially be regulation if their name is attached to it. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to be uncovered from that standpoint. But ultimately, I don't think that these large institutions are going to let those fees go by. They definitely want a piece of that pie.